Welcome back to the series where I 100% every game in Roblox, and today I'm playing the Winter Spotlight event. Just like other dev hunts like the Hunt or the Classic, there are different games that I have to complete, and each one of these games had a standard and elite token in them. For this event, the games that were chosen had a good update this year. And for my first game I picked Fish, mainly because I had been playing it a lot recently. For the first quest I had to catch 20 fishmas fish, and buy the candy cane rod that I had plenty of money for. I then went to the shore to catch 20 fish. Doing this gave me the standard token, and for the elite token I had to find a missing elf. To do this I followed the candy cane trail and found the elf in a cave. He gave me a new set of tasks where I had to catch more fish. With that done I had to fix the present machine. I then had to deliver a present to an elf on each island. After giving the presents I went back to the elf, and they gave me the elite token. The next game I did was Elemental Dungeons. For the standard token I had to beat the Santa Village map. For the elite token I had to collect 14 presents and beat the Grouch 5 more times, which was very exciting, but first I had to collect 14 presents. With all the presents I just had to beat the Grouch for more times. After talking to Santa again, I got the elite token completing the game. The next game was Petgo. In order to get the tokens I had to first buy the holiday event. This game was an RNG game which gave currencies based on how rare of a pet you rolled. After a while of playing I rolled this 1 in 50,000 pet. And pretty soon after another one. With this money, I bought the winter event, which unlocked the gingerbread currency, and also ice fishing. The rest of the game was pretty repetitive. I would buy bait from the shop, fish with my auto roll-on, and buy upgrades. After a while of this I was able to afford the standard token. For the elite token I literally just had to play the game until I had 800,000 gingerbread. I just AFK'd it since there wasn't much to do. Next up was Bedwars. For the standard token I had to play 5 games in Minigame Mountain. The first minigame was a snowball fight, where the losing team would all die. The next minigame was fading platforms, where if your team fell then you die. I ended up falling, but my teammate was able to survive. The final minigame was color block, where a color would be shown, and you would have to stand on it. One of my enemies fell pretty early, so they couldn't catch up on points. After winning, we went to the top of the mountain and fought a boss that we didn't even need to. But after spam clicking for 5 minutes, we did it anyway. In the next round, we needed to more minigames, so I played the platform and fishing minigame to get the standard token, and just left to see what the elite token was. In order to get it, we just had to make it to the top again, starting with the fishing minigame, which was basically just fish. After a close one, I moved to the next minigame, which was the snowball fight, where I won again, and finally the platform minigame where my teammate survived. This time at the top we were given the elite token. Next up was Bee Swarm Simulator. To start off the standard token, I had to collect 150 white pollen and honey, and collect 5 snowflakes. I had played the game before, so this wasn't that hard. Bee Bear then gave me another set of tasks, and once again, I was able to complete this easily. Bee Bear then gave me the final set of tasks. This gave me the standard token. However, the elite token was much more difficult. I had to do 3 extremely long Christmas tasks from different bears. Starting with Black Bear, I first got 2,500 pollen from Sunflower Field, and then the same from Dandelion Field. Next was to collect leaf tokens and honey tokens, and finally extract 10,000 pollen. This was the first and easiest task to complete. For Mother Bear, I had to collect goo and a bunch of tokens. There really wasn't anything interesting as I was just grinding the game, which I don't find that interesting, but maybe I'm doing something wrong. So I did most of the grinding off camera as I was also running out of storage. But in the end completed all the tasks and collected the elite token. The next game I did was Blade Ball. I quickly did the tutorial and figured out what the quests were. I had to win a game of Santa versus Elves. There was basically just 2 teams, and you couldn't use abilities. I ended up taking someone down, but was frozen when I got hit. My teammate ended up losing the 1v1, but we won somehow. Not complaining though, as I got the standard token. For the elite token, I had to place top 5 in the Battle Royale game mode 3 times. In this attempt I died and looked at the player count right away and saw that I got 4th. However, this didn't count. I continued and used the invisible ability to have the ball not target me, and was able to get 1st and 3rd twice, earning me the elite token. Next up was Royale High. For the regular token, I had to collect 150 snowflakes while snowboarding. At the bottom of the hill I ended up at 113 snowflakes, so I went up the hill again and finished it off to get the standard token. For the elite token I had to collect 95 more snowflakes before the timer ran out. The next game was War Tycoon. I had to collect 25 presents around the map to get the tokens. Firstly, I had to go through the Tycoon quickly until I unlocked the car, then just drove around and collected them along the way. It was as exciting as you can probably expect, as they did the exact same thing for the hunt. But anyways, there's the standard token for collecting 10, and there's the elite token for collecting 25 presents. The next game was Bloxburg. There was only a standard token in this game, and I had to collect 750 tickets to get it. Ignore the fact that I already had a bunch. I got them from an advent calendar, but they didn't count towards the token. After carving all the eyes, I was 32% done with 240 tickets. I then found the elf hunt and brought a cookie to the elder elf, only to realize that I didn't need to do this and just completed more minigames to get the standard token. Next up was Sonic Speed Simulator, and let's just say that I wasn't surprised when I saw the first quest. At least it was satisfying. For the elite token, I had to find presents around the map and collect them. However, I could only carry 5 at a time, and I had to bring back not 5, not 10, but 100 presents and drop them off at the Christmas tree. So after many minutes of mindlessly running, I was able to collect 100 and get the elite token. Next up was Universe Football, and to get the standard token, I had to block 15 people. For the elite token, I had to gain 15 yards, and I did it by getting a catch. This was enough to give me the elite token, finishing the game. Next up was Dress to Impress. I started by teleporting to the winter town, and entered the train to start chapter 1. For the first part, I went into Santa's workshop. I started the minigame to sort presents. I then did a short little obby to make it to the next part. For this, I had to fly a reindeer to make it to the next part. However, there was more to this part as the standard token was hidden somewhere in the path. I then rode a sleigh down into some sort of castle, and ran around in the caves to make it to the boss. Facing Santa Claus, I had to throw presents at him to deal damage. After beating Santa, I was brought to space and quickly collected the elite token before I had to fight the second boss fight. It was basically the same as the other one, so I didn't have a problem defeating Santa again. With Dress to Impress finished, I was 50% done, and I went to Creatures of Sonaria next. After spawning in, I looked and saw the task for the standard token. I had to deliver 10 gifts and hit 5 targets with snowballs, so I flew over to the first minigame to complete the first task. With the first part done, I flew and looked for presents around the map. They were all under Christmas trees and had a specific color. I would then bring the present back to the same colored sleigh. I did that with 10 presents and got the standard token. For the elite token, I first had to do the snowball minigame again. After, there were Forwarden shrines that each had a task I had to do. For the first one, I had to collect ice shards around the mountain area. For the next one, I had to bring a giant candy cane to the shrine. The third one, I had to activate different nodes around the volcano, and 5 minutes later I finished all 14, completing another task. For the final task, I flew around and collected winter essence from floating islands. I then offered it to the shrine to complete the final task, and obtain the elite token. Next up was Heroes Battleground. For the standard token, I had to get 8 kills. I started killing my ult because I'm not gonna waste time trying to kill actual people. And I got a bunch of points for playing the event that was going on. For the elite token, I needed to play 3 minigames. I already did the first one earlier, and I played King of the Hill to get the second one done. And finally, I played Reverse Tag to get the elite token. Next up was Driving Empire. For the standard token, I had to complete 5 races, so I just did the same one over and over again. For the elite token, I had to collect 10 different cookies around the map. For this, I watched Connor 3D's video. Next up was ERLC, and as soon as I joined, someone was already pointing a gun at me. For the task, I would have to rob stores, so I drove over to the tool shop and bought a baseball bat. I then went into a store and broke into the cash register. This gave me a present, and I would need 24 in total to get both of the tokens. So I got my third, fourth, and as I was about to get my fifth, I got arrested. I tried leaving, but when I rejoined, I was put in jail. 20 minutes later, I was up to 12, and another 15 went by, and I got the elite token. After this, I did Warrior Cats, and in this game I had to go to the frozen forest and catch prey. I needed 3 points worth of prey for the standard token and 20 for the elite token. I caught prey by slowly walking up to them and then lunging when I was close enough. Also, certain prey had different amounts of points. For example, the one I just caught was 1 point, but this gray mouse was worth 5 points, which also gave me the standard token. Now that you know how the game works, here's me getting the other 14 points. The next game was Rivals, and for the standard token I had to get 15 kills in duels. Next, for the elite token, I had to get 100 kills in free for all. As you could probably expect, I just played the game for another 20 minutes. But I ended the first game off with 14 kills and 8 assists. The second game with 32 kills and 7 assists. The third game with 25 kills and 12 assists. And the last game I got 29 kills and just left with the elite token. Next up was Greenville, and just like Bloxburg, it only had a standard token, and to get it there were different chapters that I would have to complete. And for the first one, I just walked around and found pieces of a map. They were all marked, so I had no trouble finding them. In the next chapter, I had to find 2 different cabins. In the first one, I had to fight Rico by throwing snowballs I got from piles around the basement. After beating Rico, I made it to the next cabin, where I fought Esteban and just did the exact same thing. The next game was Tower Defense Simulator. For the standard token, I had to beat the Frost Invasion map. To beat it, I chose the Fortress loadout, and I used the strategy in Connor 3D's video. It started by focusing on the military bases in the early game, and after turning them all into tanks, I started to upgrade my crook bosses and max them all out. I then started upgrading all my tanks into railgun tanks, and after getting a few mercenary bases, I was at the boss. For the elite token, I had to collect crystals around the map, and then type Operation Ice into the walkie-talkie. This triggers the elite token, however it is harder than the standard one. For the boss, I did the same strategy, while my teammate used helicopters. This experiment thing also ended up hitting it, which brought it down low enough for us to defeat it. Next up was Emergency Hamburg. And for the standard token, I had to deliver presents. Firstly by picking them up, and then bringing them to the Christmas tree. I had to do this twice to get the standard token. For the elite token, I had to become a police and arrest present thieves. And then I had to bring them back to the Christmas manager to get the elite token. Next up was Dragon Adventures. And for the standard token, I had to do a bunch of minigames. Firstly, the gingerbread baker minigame, where I had to make specific gingerbread dragons. Next, the Santa Helper minigame, where I had to deliver presents. I then did the snowman minigame, where I had to build a snowman from scratch and use my fire to melt it into the right shape. I built one snowman and just sat there for the rest of the 5 minutes. For the last minigame, I had to shoot fire at nutcrackers. At the end, I started shooting penguins just so the timer would go down faster. But with that done, I got the standard token. For the elite token, I had to find for different keys. The first one was a present I melted with fire. The second one was gotten through fishing. The next one was in a snowman. And the final one was in an ice cave. With all the keys, I opened the castle door and claimed the elite token. With 2 games left, the next one was Toilet Tower Defense. I had tried and failed this so many times that I could buy a few crates. I then went into the Santa Workshop map and got a pro to help me beat it. This guy was placing all types of toilets while I was just spamming my present speakerman. Fast forward 10 minutes and bro had a snow monster, Santa Claus, whatever those are, and a giant gladiator. In the end, he was able to beat the Krampus toilet for me, and I got the elite token for beating the map with only 2 towers equipped, and the standard token for beating a map. The final game was a dusty trip, and after joining, I put a cookie and milk into my car for later. I began driving until I got to 1,000 meters. There was a nutcracker boss which threw presents at me, tried to crush me, and finally threw a spinny thing at me, but I used a gun to destroy it. Next up at 2,000 meters was the snowman boss. For this one, I walked away from its attacks, hid in a corner from the snowballs. The minions weren't much of a problem, and the snowballs were easy to dodge, so I was able to take it down as well. Finally, at 3,000 meters was Krampus. These snowballs, I just stood in the middle. The zombies were easy to defeat, and it was easy to avoid Krampus's stomps, as well as the presents, so I was able to defeat him, giving me the standard token. Now for the elite token, it was a bunch of long steps. Remember the cookie and milk from earlier? I put them on a table to get a part of a car. After attaching it to mine, I drove to 3,500 meters and went into a garage. I fixed up the car in there and took the present with me to use for later. I then went to 4,000 meters and gave the present to the shop owner there. In exchange, I got another car part and I was on my way to the next one, which was in a house at 5,800 meters. Next, I took the engine from the hot cocoa shop and went all the way back to the garage to fix the car. However, I wasn't done, as back at the Nutcracker boss there was another part. Finally, I brought it back to the garage and fully fixed the car to get the elite token. With all the games done, I had to collect my rewards, and let's just say there was a lot of them. I ended up buying the Frost track just for the badge, and collected even more items. Next, I joined Waffle Trade Stream to get the 3 helmets. With all of this done, I got all the items of this event, and also completed all the games in this event, meaning I 100%ed the Winter Spotlight event in Roblox.